Hello and welcome back to 31 Days to Wellbeing. We're back for season 2 where we're going to be investigating sleep. I am Zach. I was in season 1 of 31 Days and I'm delighted to have a new team with me for this season. So throughout the month of May, we are going to be investigating how different activities interact with our sleep, which is obviously one of the main pillars for wellbeing. So we're going to be running 4 different podcasts. The first week is exercise, and that's the topic for today. We've been measuring our sleep scientifically or kind of pseudo-scientifically using our Whoop wristbands. And throughout this episode, you're going to hear us talk about how long we slept for, our sleep score, our sleep efficiency, and our recovery. Alongside the Whoop, we've been keeping a journal every night to assess whether the Whoop is actually telling lies and whether we actually need to listen to our own bodies. So every morning we wake up, we say how we think we slept, how recovered we feel, and every night we kind of say what we did that day and whether we felt tired or anything throughout the day. So I this week have been doing early morning exercise. So I've been waking up, immediately getting to the gym and doing resistance training. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Michael Tarpey to introduce himself.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I am one of the 2 Michaels on this season's 31 Days to Wellbeing. Was an avid viewer of the previous season and very excited to be involved in this one. This week I was looking and experimenting with doing HIIT/circuit training workouts during my lunch hours at work, which I think, was slightly different to what the other guys were doing. I think the results might vary slightly. I think it's probably good to say as well, this is obviously 3 guys with full-time jobs and kind of busy lives, so it's relatable, I think, to everyone. That's kind of how we want to make it. So
Definitely.
Yeah. So whilst the plan was to do it at lunch all week, and I was mainly able to stick to it, I kind of had to incorporate other elements of exercise to keep the experiment running. But yeah, we'll also go into that shortly.
Love it.
And on to Michael Turnbull to hear what he was getting up to this week.
Hello everyone. I'm looking at this camera again. Okay, yes. I feel like I'm sort of between podcasting and videoing and looking at our lovely CEO, Zachary, over there. Yes, so as Michael Tarpey mentioned, I'm the other Michael. So I'm Michael Turnbull. Throughout this week, for the exercise week, I was doing running or some kind of longer walking in the evenings, as Tarpey very astutely pointed out. I think obviously kind of trying to juggle this with full-time work and other commitments in our lives. I think sometimes I probably wasn't necessarily always doing it in the evening. Also would like to preface it that as I'm training for the Hackney Half Marathon in 2 weeks. Sorry, just had to plug that in there, no worries. So I did a really long run on Friday, kind of in the afternoon, like a 10.5 mile run, which was absolutely horrible. So I'm not feeling too confident for the Hackney Half, but I digress. Anyway, it was definitely interesting. I definitely have lots of things to say about exercising in the evening and what that means for me personally, but
love it.
Yeah.
So I think we've hammered the point home already, but it's just to make it very clear. Lots of kind of scientific studies and stuff done online, and people wake up at 4 a.m. and do these crazy routines. We're trying to show what you could do in your normal day-to-day life. Obviously, we're not going to be able to stick with that. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but we're going to be going out and having fun at points over the weekend or throughout the week. So that's going to mess up our sleep anyway. But we want to try and see kind of how consistent you can get your sleep by following onto certain routines this week. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just keeping up as much consistency as possible. But to move on slightly, I think it'd be important for all of us to actually touch on how well we kind of think we sleep in general, because that's going to show up in our scoring anyway. So I'm happy to begin with it. So I feel like I'm actually fine at sleeping. when I want to go to sleep, I can. I rarely sort of toss and turn before going to sleep. And nowadays, I used to be really bad, but nowadays I feel like I can wake up pretty soon after my first alarm. It may be a couple of snoozes, but there's a sort of window generally where I go to sleep and where I wake up. How about you guys?
Yeah. I was always that kid that would like get put to bed by his parents. I had this thing where I would count to 100 in my head. And then for me, that was like justifiably enough time where I could go down and try and convince them that I'd had a nightmare. So I then got to stay up a bit later and like watch TV with them.
I love that.
And like, I don't think that part of me is ever really truly gone, because I still will easily be able to stay up till the early hours, like on my phone or watching TV. It's actually something I'm going to raise. I unfortunately was parted ways with my phone for the first half of this week.
Yes, you did. Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's not going to be perfect.
yeah. R.I.P. that phone. But as a result, I think it really positively impacted the first half of my week sleep-wise,
Sure.
at least, because suddenly the number one distraction that I think probably most people suffer from was no longer an option, and gave me a sort of opportunity to have different outlets before bed. Actually was reading a fair bit, was just cooking, and then you kind of get yourself already into a calmer state of mind. And so that was a good thing for me. Turns out, silver linings.
Love that. Love a good media blackout to help purge the sleep. I don't know what I'm saying. I was trying to do a fun little segue into what I was trying to say.
I'm leaving this in.
It didn't happen, but it's okay. Yeah.
How well do you sleep?
How well do I sleep? Thank you, Zach. That's what I needed. Pull us back to focus. Yeah, I would say I sleep all right. I think, yeah, historically, I don't think I've been a very good sleeper. I tend to sleep quite well with lots of like ambient noise or just background noise, like what you just said about counting to 100 jogged a memory for me, that I used to do this really weird. This is so weird. I used to do this thing called thumping before I'd go to sleep. So
Interesting.
it sounds, say that word wrong and you're saying something very different. No, so I basically would raise up my right leg. So sorry for anyone listening, but for the viewers, my left leg is kind of like 90 degrees, and then my right leg is like, this is the mattress, and then I'd sort of just bash my right leg down onto the mattress repeatedly. Until I was about 12, like it was, I was too old. And then I kind of like was starting to go to sleepovers, probably about the age of 9 to 12, probably 9. But then like, so I had to be like, I need to stop doing this because I can't do sleepovers. This is beyond embarrassing.
Parents can hear you thumping
No,
upstairs.
but literally, my whole family would be like, oh, Michael's thumping. That's, he's gone to sleep. But I realised how now I'm definitely getting to tell that story. But it felt like a nice anecdote. But yeah, I did grow out of that. Or did I? No, I did. No, I did. I'm trying carrying on this joke too long. But anyway, the point is sleeping well. Yeah, I think I sleep okay. I tend to fall asleep quite quickly. I wake up quite a lot though, I would say, in the middle of the night. And then I resultingly, consequently, struggle to wake up in the morning, I would say.
So that's something we'll look at for your scores throughout the month then, is your efficiency, to see how much you're kind of waking up in the night. And similarly for you, to be honest, if you're going to bed a bit later.
I'm prone to a sleepwalk as well.
Oh yeah, God, yeah, we'll touch on that. I'm sure throughout the month there's going to be one in there.
That's so true.
But for now, I'll just jump into my results for the first week. So like I explained earlier, but just as a reminder, I was doing resistance training early in the morning. It's the one that everyone voted for on our poll that we looked at with the viewers to see what they thought is the best time of day to do it, particularly for sleep. And I wouldn't say that I usually do it. I sometimes do it. I'm sort of, bear in mind, this is 7 days in a row of exercise. I know for some people that's like not that like crazy, but I think for others it really is. Definitely. And so I was used to having like a rest day or whatever in the mornings, but instead now it was wake up, get out every single day. And my results are actually quite interesting. So every single sleep metric for me went down this week. I was expecting it to go way up.
Weird.
because you'd kind of be tired out by the end of the day, you'd fall asleep earlier, you'd be stuck in the routine. But yeah, my average sleep shot down. My sleep efficiency was exactly the same, so it made absolutely no difference to me. My kind of general recovery for my body shot down, obviously, because I wasn't resting. And then, yeah, even the amount of time I was sleeping went down. So obviously there are going to be other factors within there, but I thought that was quite shocking.
Yeah,
so I was fully expecting this one to be actually really good.
Yeah.
And so when I was looking at the analysis, I was like, oh no. In terms of my ability, and yeah, I don't know if we mentioned already, but we're kind of tracking to kind of test whether Whoop is actually useful or not. So far it is. But I tend to kind of score my sleep and my recovery fairly similar to Whoop. And the days where I was really bad at scoring were the days where I'd had a few drinks the night before. And that was the next thing I wanted to bring up is, as well as a routine is going to be throughout the week, and I was still doing the exercising in the morning, bear in mind we've just had a bank holiday weekend. Oh my, when I drank, my sleep like halved. Everything just went so badly wrong. One day, I think, yesterday on bank holiday Monday, I woke up with a 10% recovery.
Oh my
so
God.
I was 1 out of 10 recovered from the weekend, which is really, really scary. And I think it's something that, and I know I'm going on with this, but I think it's something that we kind of talk about, having that heavy weekend and then feeling horrendous on the Monday. But this is like the genuine proof that I was a 1 out of 10 recovery from the last few days. And yeah, just thought it was really interesting. So my takeaways for this week were take rest days. Like most of the time it was good and I felt really productive throughout the day, and my energy levels, which is something we'll also talk about, were actually pretty good. I felt like I was really productive in the mornings, had a bit of a dip in the afternoons.
Sure.
But in terms of actually changing my sleep, it just made it worse. So take from that what you will, but I just thought that was bizarre personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mr. Michael Tarpey, tell me about your week of hits.
Yeah, no, that's interesting takeaways. I think I can actually relate to a lot of that. I think the one off the bat that just struck out at me there, you had a 10% recovery. I think it was Saturday night, 8% in the morning.
Yeah.
And just like, you can imagine how I was feeling. And clearly alcohol and like the weekends are just the most disruptive factors when it comes to having a good week. And you can, I think, exercise all you like. And I think we've all got pretty healthy lifestyles in general anyway. So I don't think the exercise had a huge effect on me, if I'm being completely honest. I like to try and do a few workouts a week anyway, or go running or something similar to that. Working out in the middle of the day, I think we probably all experience like that lull post-lunch, especially when you have like a heavy meal. That, I would say, was the biggest advantage to doing it at lunch. You go and do a circuit class for 45 minutes, and the adrenaline is cursing through your body at the end of it. Like, come back to your desk and like you're almost like too hyped up to get back to work.
Yeah.
But I think going forward, like, if not a class, then certainly getting out at lunch, going for a run. I think that's probably something that I want to try and be more consistent in my routine with. Exercise is just one factor. I know that we're focusing on sleep here, but I think like another takeaway that I found was it really like depends where you are with your headspace.
100%.
And not only does that like affect like how motivated, how much energy you have to exercise, which was the variable we were testing, but equally sleep, like just in general. I had a very busy, very productive, so I was actually in a very good headspace, but it was an intense start to the beginning of the week. I was taking part in a hackathon, so I was spending 10 hours a day with 4 developers in a small room. So it was pretty brutal, and then resulted in a competition. But my workouts were better then. It was such a productive mindset that I was getting all the exercise in, I was getting plenty of sleep, and then as the week wore on and the bank holiday set in, that's when I sloped off a little bit.
That's where it tanked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to kind of second your point, like definitely it depends, as well as the physical aspect of the exercise, how well that pays off, like the mental aspect to that as well. Because I think if you're not quite like just mentally prepared to do it, like I know specifically, I guess for long distance running, you're kind of like, okay, I have to do like a big run. And like, as well as doing it for the podcast, I was kind of like, okay, I need to also do this for training. So I was kind of like, I think the exercise may be, well, particularly in the evening, I don't think exercise in the evening is a good time for me to exercise personally. I think it just ended up making me quite like energetic and a bit like frantic in the evening. And then I'm like, well, what am I doing with all this extra energy? I can't go to bed. And it's a bit like I think also exercising in the morning particularly, which is what I probably would normally do, but it was nice to do something different to see if that helped. But like doing it in the morning, I have more energy then, so then I'm kind of like, I'm more inclined to want to do it. And then also like mentally after doing it, I'm like, well, I feel great now, like I'm immediately more productive.
Yeah.
I'm then not stressed about like getting into my day and be like, oh no, I need to like go and exercise. But I also will say, I feel like I'm rambling here, but I will say, in terms of like the type of exercise, I think that is quite key as well. Because I know, so one of my friends from work, I sometimes go to the gym with him. He has like free passes, so I've just been to the gym with him a few times. And like, because I'm too stingy to get a gym membership, which I probably should just do. But anyway, the point is, going with him is like really fun, and obviously it's like social, and that's like a fun thing to do after work. Whereas like the idea of going for like a 8-mile run after work is like a bit dead and not really. I mean, for some people it works, but for me, it's not a good feeling, I think, for me to know that I've got that to do in the evening. I think it would be better for me to be doing that in the morning. And I think in terms of scores, kind of similar, echoing what both of you said, I don't think it really had a huge improvement on my sleep. So guys, exercise has not improved sleep. No, that's a small joke. No, but the data isn't showing that it does. I mean, I would say it didn't like decrease massively, but yeah, kind of everything's when I say it went down, I'm saying it went down in comparison to our data for April. So like, yeah, again, sleep quality and sleep quality was slightly down. Like my time in bed was also down. My sleep efficiency was better. So does that mean you checked that on our lovely Whoop app earlier, didn't you, Tarpey? So sleep efficiency's time in bed.
It's how much time you're actually asleep during the night.
Time in bed.
Yeah.
That's
divided
actually,
by that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I mean,
that went up.
Yeah.
But sorry. Go on.
No, like that's one of the surprising metrics.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember what it's called in the app, but it measures how long you're awake for during the night.
Yeah.
I was never aware. Apparently, I'm awake like on average for like over an hour.
It's kind of
just
wild.
tossing and turning.
Two wake events every hour for me. It's terrifying.
Is that high? That's high, right? Is that considered high?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it is wild, and just like, So overall, everything kind of slightly reduced, which was surprising. I didn't think that was going to happen at all. And very interestingly, the days that I had been drinking over the bank holiday weekend were my best quality sleeps. So that's makes
wild.
No sense. I don't understand what my body's playing out there. And yeah, like my perception of my sleeps was also just completely off. Like I woke up thinking like, oh, I've smashed it. I'm like 80% recovered. It was like 20% recovered. I was like, brilliant, okay. And that's the day I went for my 10-mile run. I was like, well, this is going to be an awful run. And it was really hard. So I guess, I think that tells you that the Whoop app is probably doing something good in that it is telling you like, your body is saying, don't run today.
Yeah.
And I ignored it, and I shouldn't have because I had horrific cramp. I also did just come back from New Zealand, so I don't know if like my body's like jet lagging and readjusting and trying to get back on that. But yeah.
So I think the things that are coming out of it so far is that none of us really understand or that checked into our bodies compared to the Whoop.
We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. Number 2 is that exercising every day and doing quite hard exercise every day, terrible idea for your sleep. 100%. Just doing 3 or 4 times a week is realistically probably what we all do anyway, and it's probably much better, and that's probably why our data from April's fairly good. I think most of the conversations that have come out of this, which is interesting, is we've moved away from sleep and talked about energy, and so it's not we're exercising to boost our energy rather than to tire ourselves out, which is something I feel like we were brought up on, right? It's like, I don't know, even if you have pet dogs or whatever, you're walking them to tire them out, you're not walking them to boost their energy. And so it's quite interesting that all three of us have said the same thing. So it didn't help our sleep, but it did make us feel really awake and energetic. So we've got a couple things to talk through before we finish up for this week's episode. So, Mr. Turnbull, first of all, would you like to talk through the poll that you put out on the Instagram earlier?
Boy, would I. Yeah, so thank you everyone who responded. Thank you to those watching who responded, as well as those listening. So we put out a little poll on Instagram yesterday just to say, what time of day do you prefer to exercise? So either morning, lunchtime, or the evening. And a few of you also responded kind of giving some explanations to why you found that helpful. In terms of our results, I would say, pretty mixed. Majority of people were saying morning, and then it was kind of slightly few people said evening, and then like about 10% of people said lunchtime. So I feel like that's kind of also in line with what we were saying. I feel like morning is a better time, but lunch can be good. But I don't know. I mean, overall, I don't think evening's that good, but interesting some of the responses that people were giving for the evening to be like, helps you de-stress, and like you feel like you have more fuel because you've obviously, eaten more throughout the day and stuff like that. But then to contrast.
Well, it kind of ties into something that's probably worth putting in, but it ties into something that we researched when we were like coming up with ideas of what to do for the project. And it's interesting that everyone says morning, because supposedly, statistically, certain people are better at things like exercise at different parts of the day.
This is what I was going to ask. Is it different for like different ages or like even different genders? Like I actually don't know.
I think it's the concept of the morning person and the night owl, isn't it?
It's like hardwired in from like caveman days where certain people like in the tribe essentially.
I feel like you were talking about
yeah,
this.
So some people in the tribe would like need to be better at staying awake in the morning because the ones they could take watch, so the others could do it at the other end of the day, and then there's like a window of far fewer hours where they're actually in danger. So like I struggle with getting up in the morning and exercising. I've tried so many times, and like evening just works so much better for me.
I think I need like an hour, and once I've like eaten, give me like an hour, and then I'm like bang, good to go.
Love it.
Yeah.
I always claim that I'm a morning person, but I'm definitely classically a night owl. I like to wear the image of the morning person, but I'm really
same.
not.
maybe I'm also hiding behind a facade. Anyway,
funny. I'm sure we'll look into that over the next month as well, just to see what happens in terms of the times we're getting up as well. So that's it's interesting from the poll. I think we wanted to just touch on something else as well.
I do. So shout out to Moonbird, who are a lovely little brand, who are kind of collaborating with us on the podcast. We're going to be sending them our data at the end of the month. But essentially, they have kindly gifted us 3 of these lovely handheld devices. Again, for anyone who's not viewing this on YouTube, I'm sort of holding up my hand as if to put my finger
thumping motion
in a sort of thumping motion, exactly. Careful. Holding my thumb over an imaginary sensor, which, because the devices are arriving later this week, I will actually show properly. I'll do a little story for all of you on Instagram so you can show it properly. But if you do see the products, on our story and you are interested, we do have a little affiliate link so you can get 20% off. Woo! So if you are so inclined, because it is, meant to help regulate your breathing, and it does sort of have scientific backing. I think it's something like it improves your sleep by 36% if you use it for like 10 minutes just to kind of breathe in and out whilst like you're trying to sort of calm down and like, get into more of a meditative state. But more info coming on that, and we will definitely be talking more about that device in our sort of routine and like holistic weeks, I would say.
Yeah, and that's the perfect segue. So for next week's episode, so for the next week starting from tonight actually, we're going to be going through the holistic kind of sleep activities that a lot of us have heard before, and just trying them out and doing the exact same thing basically. So just measuring our sleep scores, measuring how we feel in the morning, how we feel in the evening, stuff like that. So holistic things. So tonight is chamomile tea, and then tomorrow is lavender spray on your pillow, because everyone seems to do that. I'd never heard of that until we researched this. And then your yogas, your meditations, stuff like that. And then on Friday this week, we are actually testing out the Moonbird device. So
That we are.
yeah, you'll hear more about that next week. But I think that's probably time for us to wrap it up. So thank you very much to everyone who has watched along and listened at home, and we'll be back at the same time next week. We've been 31 Days to Wellbeing. Thank you very much.